So welcome to the Ground Cinnamon Season 3. This season I've decided to come home and I'm going to show you food that I've grown up eating in the city of Bangalore. Now the first item that I'm going to show you is a samosa. Now in Bangalore we don't eat aloo samosas, we don't eat potato samosas, we eat onion samosas. And onion samosas are better than potato samosas. Now you get onion samosas throughout the decade. You get them in Hyderabad, you get them in Chennai. But the ones made in Bangalore, especially in Johnson Market, are really close to my heart. And I'm going to try and replicate them today. Let's get started. So to make onion samosa, you want onions and preferably choose the red ones. You want that additional sharpness of the red ones compared to what you get from the white ones. You'd also need a handful of coriander leaves, a thumb long ginger, 1 lemon, some pressed rice. This is say about 2/3 of a cup. You can add more if you like. What you'll also need is about 8 cloves of garlic, about 1/8 of a teaspoon of turmeric and some salt. We are also going to make our very own spice mix. This is very easy to remember. You'd need 1 tablespoon of cumin, 1 tablespoon of fennel seeds and a tablespoon of coriander seeds. Here I also have some chili flakes. Now you could use whole chili, but this is just easier to measure. So this is about half a tablespoon, but you could spike it up depending on how much you enjoy heat. So dry roasting. All of you would have realized by now that I love dry roasting my spices. And with these seeds, you want to take them about 3 to 4 shades darker and do it on a very low flame. If not, they're going to burn and they're going to be very bitter to taste and it's not going to be very pleasant. Now when you feel you're about 20 seconds from wrapping up, add your chili flakes. Now chili flakes burn very easily, which is why you want to barely warm them up, and once the raw edge is off, that would be in about 20 seconds, you're good to go. Yes, we are going to grind this into a powder, but that does not mean you get tempted and use the powdered packet spices. The reason we warm these is we want to cook it off, we want to take the raw edge off. The powdered packet spices are raw when ground, and in this recipe there's no stage in which we could cook it off. So not just the spices, except the onions, we want everything cooked off. So we want the ginger, the garlic and the turmeric completely cooked off. Now again, do not be tempted to use ginger garlic paste because it's extremely raw and the flavor is not very pleasant. So here I'm going to chop my ginger and garlic fine, after which I'm going to fry this off in a couple of tablespoons of oil. Now to clean your ginger, use the back of a spoon and peel off the ginger very carefully. So in goes 2 tablespoons of oil, and while the oil heats up, I'm going to be resourceful and I'm going to slice these onions real thin. So the ginger and garlic have been cooking off for a few minutes, and at this stage I am going to add the turmeric. The turmeric will take about 10 seconds to cook off, after which this is done. Now very quickly chop your coriander and add it to the onions. Season it with a generous pinch of salt, after which in goes the ginger garlic mixture. Here I'm going to add about a tablespoon of the spice mix we just made. You could add more if you really like the spice mix. Now with the pressed rice, this is about 2/3 of a cup. Now you might have to add more depending on how much moisture is released by the onions later. If the mixture is a little too wet, you might have to add more pressed rice. Finally, the lemon juice. Lemon juice is extremely important, guys. Without acid, these won't taste as good. The next step is completely optional, but you could add some garam masala for some finishing. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, after which you want these onions to sweat, release all that moisture, and the pressed rice to absorb all that moisture along with the spice mix and become these tiny pockets of happiness. Now this stuffing recipe that I've shown you is of course not limited to onion samosas. You can replace it with chicken mince, mutton, beef. Replace a portion of these onions with your meat, brown the meat off with the same spice mix, and you could even brown your onions off, and It's gonna make the best meat samosas ever. Do try it. In the meantime, let's get started making our pastry. Up next, for the pastry or the Samosa Party, you will need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Into this, I'm going to add half a tablespoon of oil, a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of sugar. Now don't skip this step because the sugar is going to help your samosas brown well. They're going to look very pretty because of this. And into this goes 3/4 of a cup of warm water. Knead this into a smooth dough and knead it for at least 10 minutes. You want to develop all that gluten and your life is going to become much easier after. After that, rest it for at least 20 minutes. 20 minutes on, look how smooth and pliable it's become. I'm going to roll it out into a tube, after which I'm going to cut them into small balls, say the size of golf balls. Now the golf ball comparison works really well for North America. For my fellow Indians, let me remind you of, remember the crazy balls that we used to play with as kids? You get it. So when it comes to rolling out, you could roll this out into some sort of a flatbread and then cut it into strips or a putty. But there's going to be a lot of wastage. So if you want to avoid all that waste, just follow my instructions. So roll out your ball into a flat disc and keep the diameter of this disc approximately equal to the width of the putty you desire. Now repeat and make 4 more of these discs. Pile them up with a fair amount of flour separating them. After which you want to roll them out, but roll them out in one direction. So these patties need to be par cooked. So when you place them on a hot pan, give each side not more than 8 seconds. You'll see these tiny little bubbles and that is when you know you're done. There's a big advantage to this, and that is there is no fear of the samosa patti being undercooked. That happens usually in a conventional samosa. And we're there. We're finally gonna make our samosas. Now there are a ton of ways you can fold one. I'm gonna show you the easiest way. You'll need some flour slurry before that. That is a little bit of flour mixed in enough of water to make a thick paste. And now the easy part. Take a samosa patti and shape it into a V. Now because this pastry is so thin, you'll be able to see the exact shape that your samosa is taking. Now take one end and seal it with your slurry. And there you have it, a samosa pocket. Now add enough filling, don't overfill it. And now seal the other end. Yes, it is that easy. Our beautiful samosas are ready and all that's left is for these to fry off. You want to fry them on a medium-high heat, not very high. If you want them to crisp up, it has to be a medium-high, and fry them until you get a desired color. This should take anywhere between 6 to 8 minutes. And our deep fried crispy goodness is done. Let's get plating, shall we? So these samosas, the beauty is they stay crispy forever. And it doesn't need a condiment because it is so flavorful by itself. Now if you think making the patti is one laborious process, you can buy frozen patti. But the problem is the size. You know, the size of the samosas I made, you saw how big they were. Anyway, were you wondering what was that on the top left corner? The diamond shaped thingy? If you want to know what that is, you will have to tune in to the next episode. And if you've liked this episode, do like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.